Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Today, we had a little bit of a slow start and slow moving day in the markets. Not too much was happening in the general S&P 500, but the main story of the day today was the SMH. SMH now is trading up to where it was in February before we had the huge sell-off. So it's reaching trading levels where the S&P 500 was reaching all-time highs, and the S&P and the Qs are not up there yet. So let's jump into the data and check out what happened today. So as you see here on the main market summary page, we've got the Dow Jones up 0.05%, NASDAQ up 0.38%, S&P 500 up 0.12%, U.S. oil is now up 0.85%. We'll check that chart out. Big change in that chart. In gold, we have a day where we've moved up about 0.5%, and that's still just struggling to bust out above the parallel. Bitcoin has a big push up today, up $2,700, up 2.61%. Nice move on that cryptocurrency. All right, so into the heat map we go, and you see here that we've got a big red and green screen. Tesla now up 4.32%. Big move there on Tesla. Oracle up 1.95%. Palantir up 3.34%. Apple and NVIDIA basically about flat. Apple down about 1%. NVIDIA up 0.62%, canceling each other out. AVGO pulling back, which does make sense as that was near all-time highs. And Microsoft and Google right there, both in the green. Meta slightly down. All right, so let's jump into the SPX. So you can see here on the SPX, we are now eclipsing the area in this trend line that was created when we did have our bull trap here in February. So this is significant. Are we going to push up just a little bit higher and then start curling over? Much like we did over here, I'm going to be watching this like a hawk to see what price action provides for us in the near future. If we do start breaking down from this trend line area, the support is going to be at 58.21 on the charts. Into the Qs. The Qs here continue to just steadily push a little bit higher. Next major resistance for the Qs is going to be at $540.81. Now into the real story of the day for me. Look at the SMH, all right? So just notice here, right here was where the S&P and the Qs were making all new, brand new highs. So we were making all-time highs right here on the Qs, and the SMH was not. As you can see back here, the SMH all-time high was back over here around $283. And so what that did is that, and guys, try to understand this, semis lead the way. So when the semis weren't making new all-time highs in February, when the Qs and the spiders were, it was telling us the markets are likely going to be going lower. So now we have an inverse situation here where price action on the SMH has reached the point where the Qs and the spiders were at all-time highs, yet the Qs and the spiders are not at all-time highs. So what this does is it tells me the markets still have some room to run. Even though this run has been fantastic and incredible, we still have got some gas left in the tank. So back into the SMH, where is this going to stop? And you can see here, we tagged resistance today. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. So right now, the next major area of resistance is going to be this pivot high, and really followed by this inclining parallel channel. Now, if we start pushing up on this up to this inclining parallel channel, we're going to be talking about new highs on the SMH. So it is a possibility. Will we sweep those highs on the SMH like we did here on the S&P 500? We'll come to see that in the future, but all in all, amazing push on the SMH. And if you know anything about time counts, we are getting to an extended period right now. So some consolidation is likely needed right here at this pivot area before bulls can jump on board and push price higher on the SMH. Into the IWM. IWM also another fantastic push higher. Last time we had a show, it was Thursday. So you can see here on Friday, we closed above this breakout area on IWM. That now makes this a confirming move above this declining trend line. Now, that doesn't really mean we're going to go to all-time highs. What it does, though, is it changes this trend line into major support. So right now, today, we did tag resistance right up here at 214.38. And the likelihood now for IWM is that we should have some sort of pullback, maybe even to this consolidation. There's only 3 days of consolidation and then a move higher. But ultimately, a move down here to this trend line would be a buying opportunity for the IWM now that it has confirmed above this line. Now into Bitcoin. So a lot of stuff going on here in Bitcoin. You can see here, got my mouse highlighted at the support level of 102. 102 was tagged. So that area I'm going to go ahead and take off. We already had that beautiful support provide this bounce that you're seeing right here displayed on the charts. But what happened over the last couple weeks, we had price action move up, create a left shoulder, then a head, and then a right shoulder. Right here on this trend line, right here inclining, is actually the neckline of a head and shoulders pattern. You see when price action broke below, it didn't confirm. This is right here, plain view sight on Bitcoin, the value of the confirmation signal. We broke beneath, we didn't confirm. And so now price is just moving right back up on the charts of Bitcoin. So back into Bitcoin, you see this move up. Even though it was somewhat short for now, it is very bullish and a lot of buying pressure in Bitcoin, because look at this declining trend line connected from pivot high to the next pivot. We're trading right through price on Bitcoin today. And if I zoom into the 10-minute chart, you can see we stuttered around that area just for a little bit, about an hour or so. And then we continued pushing higher. The resiliency on Bitcoin is truly astonishing, because that area is that trend line, as you see, also was just above the 50% area of this parallel, where price stalled out as well. When it broke up here, got rejected, it caught support on this 50% area of the parallel and then proceeded to move higher. There's so much information contained right here in this chart with the trend lines, with this neckline that now has been broken, and then also this 50% area and breaking through that trend line. Truly incredible move for Bitcoin over the last few trading days. Into gold. Now, gold, you see here, we did break out, but we haven't confirmed out of this breakout of the parallel channel. So with this parallel channel, we did come down and we did catch support right here, but all the while, we still haven't confirmed above. So that tells me the probabilities show, even though with this bullish consolidation, probabilities still dictate we should start trading back down within this parallel channel. We'll see if that comes to be the case tomorrow on the chart for gold. Into silver, what a rip higher on silver today, guys. I've been talking about this for quite a while now with this inverse head and shoulders pattern. This target doesn't seem that far-fetched anymore of $38.97. All the while, this big extended move needs to hang out and chill for a little bit so it can consolidate, gain more momentum before moving up higher there to the $39 level, completing the measured move on silver. So watch for any pullbacks, maybe even down here to $35 as a buying opportunity for silver to move up there to $38.97. Into U.S. oil. U.S. oil also, we didn't have trading to close on Friday, but you see here Friday's candle closed above these pivots and also confirming a move back into this declining trend line that we see highlighted right here on the screen. Now, also you can see, and I know it doesn't technically qualify because this candle is lower than the head, but the neckline for this inverse head and shoulders pattern has already been breached and is now triggered and moving higher on the charts. Next stop for oil is going to be up here, $68.69. Granted, it can get through this consolidation and pivot zone right here because we're right now into resistance. We'll see if we start consolidating over the next couple of days, but then ultimately the major target there is right here displayed at $68.69. In nat gas is a bipolar chart. It is up and down as we've highlighted. And then now today we had trading back within this wedge, but then we're now trading underneath it. All in all, even though it's closing beneath this wedge, I still like this bull flag short-term pattern, this nice V-shaped recovery, bull flag pattern. The probabilities I see on the charts are dictating that we should move higher up to $4.18. We'll come to see on nat gas chart tomorrow. Into the 10-year yield. The 10-year yield now, notice here on Friday, we pushed up very nicely on the 10-year yield, but where did price action stop? Here on the 10-year yield chart, right here at this declining trend line, which was a previous neckline for an inverse head and shoulders pattern that has not played out. So all the while still watching this trend line. This is really going to dictate where the 10-year yield goes. As long as price action stays underneath, we're going to continue down, potentially hitting the bottom end of this parallel. Otherwise, if we do break above, this pivot high will be in jeopardy and likely tested at 4.8, followed by all the way up here, 5.289, still on the radar for the 10-year yield. into APP. Now, APP as well as Hood, the next chart we'll go over, both were anticipated to be added to the S&P 500 this last Friday. The news came out and neither of them were included. So you see this run up that occurred over the past couple of weeks of trading. A lot of that was for investors anticipating the inclusion into the S&P 500. Since that has not happened, look at the price falling today, down 8.22%. Now, the very aggressive buying level for this is right here at 377.06. I wouldn't recommend buying there because a lot of the buyers in this area were, again, chasing the S&P inclusion. So I would rather wait. And like these, there's two areas that are significant on the chart that would be worth the wait and also save you some stress should price action break through this trend line. The first area is going to be right here at 342.24, followed by this inclining trend line at 276.06. This inclining trend line will be more powerful than this trend line, as this trend line has been hit, tagged, pierced, violated multiple times, although it still will likely provide support should price action continue lower on APP. And Hood also was gaining a ton of momentum. Now, Hood's had some good news in it too. They're starting to get into the crypto space a little bit more and have more offerings for their customers. So there were several reasons why Hood was moving up, but mainly was because it was likely going to be added to the S&P 500. As we see, that has not happened. Price retreated all the way back down to $68.61. But I want to go back out on this chart and show you why price is having a difficult time getting through this zone. And it's mainly because of these two trend lines that are drawn out on the screen. You can see I drew them from previous major pivots on the chart. One from all the way back in March of 2022 and the other one from November of 2022. I connected them over to this pivot, and you can see here, once price has gotten up, we've created a daily topping tail, followed it up with another doji type tail that didn't at least register as a topping tail because it didn't overcome this previous topping tail. So this one still has the power to send price lower. Now, how much lower will Hood go? Well, support isn't that far away. You see this inclining trend line. It's only been hit once, twice. So this next hit will likely be a solid support area for Hood, currently right at $66.52. If this trend line gets broken, Hood's coming back down to this area, as you see, strung out from pivot to pivot to pivot, and also the bottom end of the pivot from this candle. This area will likely be right around $52.88. Into CCJ. Now, CCJ is involved in the nuclear space. And as you see here on the news, we had Cameco anticipating a $170 million boost linked to 2 nuclear reactors, and this driving up their share price by 11% today. So CCJ got a big catapult move up today, but notice the area that it started stalling out. We didn't hit this trend line from pivot to pivot to pivot, but we stalled out right before it. And you can see on the 10-minute chart, we're starting to put in some consolidation and curling over right here at this trend line. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, I wouldn't be really wanting to jump in short for a medium to long-term play on these sort of stocks, even though the extended move says the price should be coming down. But with the development of new AI, it's going to require an awful lot of energy. And so stocks that can provide energy, companies that do supply energy, are going to be in high demand in the near future, near and midterm future, because all the AI development, as I said, it really soaks up so much energy. And so we're going to be utilizing this AI, and folks are in business more and more each and every day as it's becoming integrated with all of our online services. So watch out for companies like these. Any pullbacks could be buying opportunities for a long play. The first area of support would be down here at $60.30. Followed by this consolidation area just above $50. So I would be looking to buy right there in that zone for a nice re-attack of that inclining trend line that you see. Into MSTR. MSTR made the news today because Michael Saylor's buying more Bitcoin. Well, hey, what else is new, right? This guy enjoys buying Bitcoin. And when prices are up here at this level, I'm going to be sitting on the sidelines and cheering him on and wishing him all the luck. And I'm going to be waiting for support levels to buy. Anyway, he's still leveraging himself and his debt and buying more Bitcoin. But what do we see here on the charts? We see a move down and a bear flag. We also have this declining trend line. Now, this declining trend line has been hit a few times, so it is vulnerable to being broken through. If this momentum continues, mainly if Bitcoin starts making new all-time highs, then we can talk about potentially breaking through this trend line and pushing up to the next resistance at 476.43, which would be a substantial gain for MSTR. We're talking about 20% move higher on the charts. Should this trend line continue to reject price, we'll see if it bull flags, much the similar fashion that IWM bull flagged right through here before breaking through. So we'll have to see how that develops. Ultimately, though, major support is going to be down here on this inclining trend line right around 287, just under $300. Into Meta. So we see here, Meta's had an explosive move up since the April lows. Very fantastic move on Meta. So what's happening now? So Meta is now pushing up right near where this major parallel channel broke. So you can see here the value on that parallel channel is right around 714.79. And if we hit it in the next few days, it actually may correspond with this gap fill, which could also be a fantastic shorting area for Meta, whether it be a day trade or near-term swing trade, because the price action is very extended on this chart. I am actually rooting for it to keep pushing higher so we can get up into the zone so I can take a nice day trade on it. First area of support will be this inclining trend line, roughly about 684.40 cents. But should this break, now we're coming down into this chop, which is right around 635, and potentially this other inclining trend line right at the 607 area on the charts. Into FSLR. Now, FSLR, we discussed this last week and how we had a breakout on FSLR, a nice move above, and then we didn't yet confirm. We had a price action close just beneath the trend line here. It moved higher on Thursday, and then we have not yet confirmed, but price action is coming down. That's still fine for this chart because there is very good support on this inclining trend line just underneath the declining trend line. So should price continue coming down on FSLR right into the 152 to 157 range, right in that area, there should be good support for another continued move up higher. First resistance is at 189.22. Now into another altcoin, Tau and Bitensor. You can see here there's a number of trend lines here on the chart, and I want to highlight those to you. So the first one and the larger time frame one is the one I'm really focused on for the mid to long term. That's an inverse head and shoulders pattern with a targeted measured move up here at $811.09. But in the near term, and notice how these patterns are much different. You can see here we have a head and shoulders pattern right there. It's kind of sneaky how it's right in the charts. Here's the right shoulder, and then we actually broke down on price. Here's the neckline inclining in this fashion right here. We broke down, came up, retested, broke down even further. The measured move for this head and shoulders is down here at $300.27. We have not yet reached that area. Even if we reach that area, that's still, and say we get a bounce up to reattack this neckline of the larger inverse head and shoulders pattern, that pattern would still be intact and would still have the probability, should it break above the neckline, to move up to that measured move, as I mentioned, at 811.09. So basically, as long as we don't make lows underneath this head, this pattern is still intact, and every dip would be a buying opportunity to have this move potentially go all the way up to 811.09. All right, guys, that wraps up Trading the Close. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll have some more details for you tomorrow, but until then, you guys have a great rest of the day. See you next time.